The best indie game I've ever played. No small claim to make. So what is it about Monster Sanctuary that makes it so good? What makes it deserving of that title? Welcome to the Grand Duke Gaming channel. I'm JD. Let's get ourselves into a game review. If you ask me, there's something incredibly charming about indie games, almost a je ne sais quoi, something you can't quite put your finger on, that a lot of AAA games really just don't deliver. So with Monster Sanctuary, what is it? There are so many carefully integrated game elements that really build a cohesive, creative world. So for those of you that aren't familiar with what Monster Sanctuary is, let's start with a brief overview to get you acquainted. Monster Sanctuary is like a mashup of Pokemon and a Paper Mario / JRPG game with exploration mechanics reminiscent of Metroidvania. There are tons of unique monsters to fight, acquire, and train, and you enter each battle deploying 3 of these monsters into party-style combat, building combos and taking advantage of your carefully selected abilities. More on that later. You begin your journey as a monster keeper. Not just any monster keeper, but a keeper from one of the 4 most prominent bloodlines in Sanctuary history. You're known as a Spectral Keeper, and begin the game by selecting a Spectral Familiar, your first monster. Each familiar represents a combination of 2 of the 4 elements in the game, and these elements, along with physical and magical distinctions, form the basis of the combat system, which we'll get to soon, don't worry, just stick around. Most monsters have weaknesses and resistance of some kind that affect damage calculation in battle. Taking advantage of those is critical to succeed in the game. Each monster also knows an exploration ability to help you traverse and manipulate the world, flying, breaking walls, activating doors, and tons more. There are close to 100 monsters in the game, each of them having a potential place in your party. None are outright bad from a gameplay perspective, in my opinion, and the designs are pretty creative and original. Probably the most enthralling part of the game for me is its sheer depth of customization and freedom. Rather, we'll say creative liberty with how you implement the different elements of the game. You can create tons of different team combinations. Each monster's base statistics and skill tree are unique to that monster. In the skill tree, you unlock new moves and passives to increase your monster's power and develop synergies with your other monsters. You'll have more skills available than skill points though, so there will be some tough choices to make as you build your team. Personally, I've been amazed with just how much time I can spend analyzing skill trees and trying to come up with different monster combinations. And if that wasn't RPG enough for you, each monster also has equipment, a weapon, and 3 accessories, standard. These items have a vast array of statistical improvements as well as passive bonuses, so you can tweak and specialize your monsters to your liking. Crit builds, buff support builds, there are all kinds of options here. And speaking of options, at a specific point in the game, a concept called monster shifting is introduced. Each monster can shift to the light or the dark, or remain unshifted. The shift will change a monster's base stats slightly, as well as grant a shift passive ability. The passives will depend on which shift you select, as well as what monster it is that you're shifting. They're accompanied by a change in color palette for the monster, which is a nice touch. It's also another layer of depth when it comes to playing the game your way. Concerning the combat featured in the game, I love it. Party-style battles, such as the type featured in other games, like one of my all-time favorites, the aforementioned Paper Mario, are incredibly fun to optimize. Each action has a specific number of hits, and each hit adds to the combo counter, multiplying the damage of subsequent actions by your team in the turn. Properly selecting your moves while considering mana, weaknesses and resistances, and proper targeting orders like a huge puzzle. Using different monster attack orders and different setups to deliver huge damage at the end of a turn is low-key one of the best feelings in the game. The map is pretty dang large also, with tons of areas to explore. So what you see here is not the full map. I just want to keep any spoilers pretty limited in this video. But this is just to show that there's a whole lot of game world to explore, because you're getting a lot more than you see here. Now the soundtrack. Man, the music in the game is excellent. Each region on the map has its own music, and it's actually pretty immersive. I feel like the devs did an excellent job in fitting the music to the environment. So, I've listed a lot of things that I love about the game. Fantastic combat, insane depth and formulas, and pretty much endless combinations of potential team compositions. A lot of ways that you can really do it your way, and find a way that almost nobody has used at this point yet. So, what might you not like as much about the game? Now keep in mind, these are small things for me, but you may want to be aware of them nonetheless. The game can get very grindy at times. but fortunately there are ways the devs tried to mitigate this. For example, when you hatch a new monster, it doesn't enter at level 1, but rather a level 3 or 4 levels below that of most of your party monsters. So there's a lot less work required to get them and their skill points up to the necessary level for them to be effective. Most games have difficulty spikes towards the end of the game in some way, but Monster Sanctuary really drops the hammer. As you approach the level cap of your monsters, you're going to find it increasingly difficult to take the W in battle. And let's just say, in some situations, if your team comp isn't the best, you're probably going to take a shot to your pride. Most people will welcome the challenge, but again, just so you're aware. So that pretty much concludes the game review. What is there left to say other than the launch date is December 8th. It's coming out on Steam, Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. So, are you picking up the game? Let me know down in the comments below. So, if you enjoyed that game review, please consider subscribing to the channel. That way, you'll be up to date on any Monster Sanctuary content that I release, as well as any variety content that I have planned. So with that, thanks for stopping by the Grand Duke Gaming channel. I'm JD, gaming for all, glory for one. God bless, and I'll see you next time.